Welcome to Fast Intelligent Care. We have our part 4 of our full part series with Lizzy Parsons, occupational therapist and solution specialist with Country Care Group. So today's episode, we'll be talking about how can you set yourself up for a successful trial. So Lizzy, with your experience with all kinds of equipment and assisting OTs with trials, what is the sort of the main points, things that OTs can do to make sure that that first trial goes well?
Yeah. So please give us as much information as possible. So relevant information, obviously, we don't need to know what the client had for breakfast that day, but the importance of the client's measurements, the importance of client's pressure risk, if they have any complex seating needs, anything that might be relevant to the piece of equipment that they're going to be trialing. I think I briefly touched on in the first episode around the fact that we quite often get asked for equipment without any without much information, generally around people's sizing. So yeah, sizing is super important, especially if you need a home trial. So like we mentioned in that first episode, people coming into the showroom, not so much of an issue, because we've got all the equipment here. They can jump into kind of different sizes and things like that. But when we're taking things out, we really need to know those kind of basic measurements of people. And the basic measurements are really the hip width. So the widest part of the hip. So when someone's sitting, in the thighs splay out a bit, that widest kind of area there. The height from the floor to the back of the popliteal, so the back of the knee. If someone's seating, is being seated, the importance of having a measurement from the seat to the top of the shoulder as well gives us a really good idea as to what this person, what their kind of body dimensions are, so that we can then, put them against what the sizes of the equipment and know that we're bringing out the correct equipment size. Another really important thing for us is things like height and weight. Because obviously, assistive technology, a lot of it is to do with safe working limits on pieces of equipment. So ensuring that we're not getting out to somewhere and we've brought out a chair that's weight rated to 136 kilos when the person's 150. So those kind of things, are super important when we're doing home trials. So if you can supply us with as much info, then it would be great.
And do you also need more of a rundown of what the home environment looks like? So if you're bringing out equipment, if there's stairs, if it's an...
Definitely. We've also turned up to many a place where we've, sometimes we can't get all the information right. Some people are a bit vague. So even, we've been told by people, you get out there's 2 steps. And actually they've been 2 steps, but they're like literally the highest steps you've ever seen, and they're very steep, not to Australian standards. And then you're trying to, our poor solution guys are trying to configure a chair in there, it's pretty dangerous. So yes, any information on the environment is super important. If you're also wanting to trial things like beds, and larger recliner chairs and things, if there is the issue with steps and stairs into the house, we quite often ask whether it's possible to trial like these pieces of equipment in the garage, just for trial purposes, just so that we're not having to lift things upstairs and stuff until like these things actually need to be delivered. Another thing is beds. A lot of the beds that we have don't break down. So, they come in one piece. Even if you're looking at, for example, like the iCare split queen, it comes as one massive piece. So then we really need to know how we're going to get it into someone's house. So pictures are great. We've got some quite good OTs that always take pictures for us, send it through and say, look, this is the entrance to this house. Do you think this bed is going to be appropriate? Because I won't trial it with them otherwise. So yeah, those kind of things are really helpful as well.
And is there, I mean, I guess it's going to depend on different products, but is there a sweet spot in terms of how long you trial something for, or how many times you trial it? Like, mattresses will people tend to want to have.
It's pretty tricky, that one, because we have some demo stock here. I don't know what it's like for the other equipment suppliers, but we have demo stock here, which means we can go out and do trials with OTs. You know, usually their trials about an hour or so. The person gets to trial the chair or the mattress, and then we take it away. But we do have clients that are really indecisive, and they might sit on a chair or lie on a mattress and still not sure if that works for them. In that case, we're able to offer like a weekend trial of the equipment usually. So in terms of a mattress, we can drop out a mattress on a Friday and pick it up on a Monday. Same with the chairs, our demo chairs, we can do that as well. It just means we're not open on the weekend. So it just means that piece of equipment isn't, missing from the showroom, but it gives, during the time when it's open and other people might want to trial them. But it means that it gives the person a few days to really feel like if that's the right thing. We do have hire equipment as well. So if you want it for a more lengthy period of time, hiring is also an option to see if they really like it before they decide to purchase it. But the issue that we have is that a lot of our hire stock isn't what you can actually purchase in the store. So, if you wanted to try a certain mattress, for example, for 2 weeks, we don't have that certain mattress in hire. So yeah, trialing is a bit difficult because obviously we have demo equipment that we need to use for other people. We can't really use new stuff because we obviously need to sell it. And the hire stuff, we can't, have everything in hire. It's just not possible. So yeah, it's very tricky when it comes to kind of more long-term trials or like more than just kind of a day trial. It does make it a little bit hard.
Have you ever had a trial where mid-trial you had to kind of pivot and do something completely different to what was maybe initially, but let's say you went out with this chair or this piece of equipment, but then mid-trial you're like, okay, it's just... that can happen fairly often, especially for the guys, because I don't myself go out for a lot of the trials now. But the guys I know, like I'll bump into them out the back and they've just been out doing a trial and then something's really not worked and they've come back to get another piece of equipment to take that out. Where we can, like we'll take a number of pieces of equipment in the chance that it might not work, and then we've got something else out in the van. Probably like a good example is that we get requests for certain chairs, but we always take the configurer with us. That's great. Good to
know. I know. Not to be too, again, I think I mentioned the configurer before without being too biased, but we quite often just have the configurer in the back of the van for any recliner lift chair trials we have, because quite often than not, the chair that's been asked to be brought out is not appropriate or doesn't fit because the sizes, we haven't been given the right sizes, or the sizes are wrong, or we haven't been given any sizes. And yeah, quite often we can then get away with using the configurer because we can change it there and then on the spot. Or we'll get out there and the OT's only just been told by the family that actually the person's got, a sore bum. And then it's changed from like the standard chair to something that's going to give it a bit more pressure care. So yeah, quite often we bring that as a bit of a backup. So, yeah, and it's funny because being an OT, whenever I've worked with people, clients, I've always when I introduce myself and explain my role, I always say to them, now you're going to think I'm very nosy because I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And I always like joke about us being OTs, just being nosy people. But it's because we've got a lot of questions to ask, right? Because we need to know all this stuff. It's important to ask lots of questions, especially when it comes to equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about OT is that we get taught to be very observant, to think very holistically, to not just look at one aspect of just like let's just the person, look at the alignment, look at cognition, all of that. So I think that's the benefit that you bring to that solution specialist role as well, is that you do have that OT lens that is very holistic. And I think it's good, like you mentioned earlier, where we do manage those expectations early on with clients, that you can have a piece of equipment that just is not going to work for you. Like, you might have seen it on the internet, looks great. I've had clients show me, like, this is the one I want. This one, I've picked it for you. I've saved you time, and I'm like, great, we can have a look at it, but there is a whole process that we need to follow, generally proper assessment. I think all of that, and like you said, it's like the guys in the showroom might not know that, but even less sometimes the client not understanding maybe what the risks are of getting the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's right, and how it's actually quite dangerous. Yeah.
Is there anything that you would say to therapists that are starting out, just getting into AT, very fresh new grads, on, let's say, their first AT prescription, their first AT trial? What would you recommend to them?
I would probably recommend they go visit their healthcare equipment supplier, introduce themselves. That's always really useful for us. And ask us how our trial process works. The way we work might be different to another equipment supplier. Like, we've got an email address. We ask people to email through all their information via email, and then we contact them around dates and stuff like that. And also make sure the stuff that you're taking, you want to trial and things as well. If you're not confident about it, like coming in and feeling confident about it. So if you want to prescribe a certain mattress or something, come in and have a look at a mattress, lie on it yourself, ask our solution specialists or the people here, like, why is this mattress good? What can it be used for? Just gaining as much information as you can. That here in Country Care Group, like, I'm really lucky in that, like, most of my job is assisting OTs with education around products. So a lot of the time they come in and I'll spend a morning or an afternoon with them, just going through all our equipment. And that, I think, has really helped. And I've been told that's really assisted them with a good kind of starting point. And then I just recommended that they do as many product training sessions as possible. I think we mentioned that in an episode earlier, how much, like, even if you go to the same product training session 3 times or something, you're still learning something new every time. But we run like monthly ones here of all different products. And the more you go to, the more that you're going to learn and upskill yourself on. So make yourself known to the healthcare equipment supplier. Ask them if they have time, for you to go through the equipment with you. If you don't, if you're feeling unconfident, and then what kind of product training that they offer there. Yeah,
and it's almost like your focus is, in a way, building that relationship with the equipment supplier, because when I started out with AT, it was quite overwhelming, but as much as I had my OT AT mentors, the product specialists or the equipment suppliers were so valuable, because they have so much experience, they have a different lens that they're looking at it. So for me, I had like a few select ones that I knew I felt very confident to go to ask questions, because I knew that they would try their best to help me. And I think, like you mentioned as well, like getting to know the equipment, almost being proactive in a way that even if you don't have a client that needs that equipment just yet, it's not going to hurt to know about it.
Yeah, definitely. Just upskilling yourself whenever you can, really. And I remember what it was like when I was doing that community work, and it was the first time I'd really come across dealing with equipment, and how important the equipment supplier was in answering all my questions and things. I think as well, back then, I didn't really know where to start as well. I felt a bit incompetent, and it was embarrassing, I guess, when you go out and you do assessments with clients and then they expect you to know straight away what equipment to recommend. I think that's a good point as well, it's okay to say to the client, I've got all the information you've given me. I'm going to go away and think about what's going to be most appropriate for you. You don't need to tell them. You don't need to come up straight away with what equipment is going to work for them. You can go back and have a look at everything that they've told you and come up with some ideas. But yeah, I did feel like that initially, because I didn't do what I've just told you to do, which is to go and speak with the equipment supplier, find out if they do any product training and whether they have any time to just go through all the products that they have. I know there's a lot of products, right? That's why it takes me a good morning or an afternoon with someone. But if you've got a few hours to go through stuff, or even if they can't help you or they haven't, got the time, I'm not sure what other equipment suppliers, what they kind of have in terms of like being able to support OTs. But, even just being in the shop and looking at the equipment in depth, and even internet searches, like even going on the internet and finding stuff, even like you guys, for example, like all your Enable Lifecare, like YouTube videos and things like that. Like, there's just so much content out there that you can educate yourself on. And it doesn't mean that you educate on yourself on everything straight away. Perhaps like if you do go out and see a client and you think something might be suitable, but you don't know much within that space, then that's when you take that small little area and you start researching your heart out about it. If they need a recliner chair, right, let's have a look at the equipment suppliers in my area. What recliner chairs do they do? What's the difference between them all? And kind of educating yourself around that. Yeah.
I think if a lot more therapists become more confident with AT, I think we'll see a lot more people moving into that space, because I feel like it's very rewarding. It's getting like that, trialing things and researching, and then you get something that just works. It's like very not instant, but very close to being instant gratification. Whereas I've taken a while to see progress, but with equipment, I do like that aspect of it as well.
And once you know most of the equipment, then it's much nicer in terms of being able to help people, because you do then have that understanding. You'll do an initial assessment and they'll say this and this and this, and immediately you'll be like the configure chair, or the K-Care commode, or you just and then you trial it, then it doesn't work. Then you're screwed. No, then you have to go to your plan B and have a little think about what other options there are. But I think as well, it's important to point out too, is that I think some OTs as well, you get very familiar with a certain product and then you try and give that product to everyone.
Yes.
That's another thing too, right? And someone in the showroom here said to me a little while ago, like, oh, I love these certain chairs because, she felt most confident in using it, in using that range of chairs. So whenever anyone would come in, she would just show them immediately over to that range of chairs, because she felt confident in it and because she'd done a few of them. When actually, they might not have been the most suitable selection for that person. Actually, another chair might have been better, but because she wasn't as confident in using that piece of equipment, she then didn't even see it as an option. And I think sometimes like that's a little bit of a hairy process for OTs when you do get really comfortable with certain pieces of equipment. And yeah, for a lot of people, you know, it will work for a majority of people, but it's sometimes scary then moving into something else when your standard piece of equipment has just been, you know, so good to you for so long. You know, and I have experienced that with some, where it's just the kind of standard equipment that goes out the door to people because that person's just decided that this is going to work for everyone. So yeah, you got to be very mindful that, you know, equipment choice is around the person and not just
open mind.
Open mind. Yeah, definitely.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much for all of your insight and learning about all your experiences, Lizzy. It was great to have this 4-part series with you. I hope to see more of you, and thank you for everything that you contribute to the AT and the OT community. And I wish you all the best.
Oh, thanks, Chanelle. It's been so good to have this chat. How nice. It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.